Hey Danny, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Lewis. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, all is well in the world of the Staffordshire Moorlands.
Yeah. Lovely.
Yeah, how's Glasgow? How's stuff up your way?
Oh yeah, it's fine. Yeah, Glasgow's getting demolished to make room for an A road.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So get to travel faster a wee bit. So there you go. Lovely.
That's an exciting time for you, driving on A roads.
Progress. I mean, we're gonna
Yeah,
lose all our
yeah.
house and all our, all our possessions, but progress.
That's what progress is losing all your possessions.
Yeah, that's the one. By the way, just for all you people out there, all you gullibles, Glasgow isn't getting demolished to make room for an A road. Just in case, for all those millions that fell for that. I say millions, 10 of you.
Do you have the Great Wheel of Bullshit, Danny?
I do, yes, and I'm gonna spin it.
Because we are officially transitioning into the 10-minute bullshit section now.
Right. Okay. Needs a bit of oiling. Cheese.
Oh, I love cheese.
I know you do. That's why. I think. I mean, that's why the wheel randomly chose cheese. Fuck.
I love cheese. Cheese is great. Do you have any strong emotions on cheese?
I don't know. I know that it takes years for cheese to go off.
Sort of. It depends, I suppose.
Yeah, because blue cheese is just like mouldy, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's like a specific type of mould. I really don't. I don't know enough about cheese to answer that question. But yeah, it is mouldy.
You love cheese, and yet you don't know an awful lot about it.
No, I know quite a bit about cheese, but I don't know enough about Stilton and blue cheeses specifically.
Well, tell us about cheese.
Cheese is, I believe, the whey or the curds from cheese making from something, where they like get the solids after you curdle milk, and then they're like compressed and stored in a warm room for like 1,000,000 years, and then you get cheese out.
What have we got? Random.
Random. I went to DragCon this weekend.
Oh! And how was that?
It was chaotic as shit. The first day was extremely chaotic. The second day was much better. The first day they had like the venue fit 8,000 people, and they sold 11,000 tickets. So
wow.
Chloe and I, my wife and I, were quite lucky in that we got there just early enough to be able to get in the doors. But there were people that turned up and was sort of being told, no, you can't come in. The health and safety people won't let anybody in. You're going to have to come back tomorrow with your Saturday ticket and we'll let you in, which is a bit weird.
Oh, and what if you couldn't make it? Would you get a refund?
Supposedly. I have yet to see evidence that people have actually gotten refunds.
Well, I mean, well, you get in, so it's fine.
I got in, yeah, so fuck everybody else.
Fuck you all.
Yeah.
But
it was quite surreal, really, like, because Chloe and I were inside the venue watching RuPaul do this, like, DJ set. And at the same time that he was, like, dancing and singing along with this music and stuff, there were these people, including, like, pregnant women, like, freezing in the cold outside, being told they aren't going to be allowed in, and the music was just being turned up to mask their chance of refunders.
Oh.
It was very surreal.
Wow. Yeah, but conventions are often like that, though, aren't they?
They are a bit, yeah.
You can't please everyone. But
we had the strangest one actually was is this one particular drag queen. I don't know the demographics of our listeners. I don't know if they like Drag Race or drag queens in general, but this is what we're talking about. The Great Wheel of Fortune has decided it.
Bullshit.
But what?
Bullshit, not fortune. We can't. That's copyright.
Oh
purposes.
yes, of course.
Can't say that, Lewis. Fuck's sake.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
You're gonna get our license pulled.
We haven't even got a license.
Yeah, we do.
I'll get my provisional driver's license pulled because I said Wheel of Fortune. But yeah, there was this one drag queen called Bianca Del Rio, and there was this enormous, because the doors opened at 10 o'clock And me and Chloe wanted to meet her, so we went upstairs and joined this queue. And as we stood in this queue, and it was getting longer and longer and longer, and we thought, this queue's about 2 hours long from where we stood to, like, the front of the line. And there was this queue, like, parallel to us. And I looked at Chloe and I said, well, what is this? What is this enormous, ridiculously long queue? And a member of staff came along and, like, asked us, have you got a ticket? I was like, well, I mean, I've got, like, a pass to let me in the building. She was like, no, to meet Bianca. And we're like, oh, no, we don't. I said, okay, stay in this queue for about 2 hours. Then you'll buy some merchandise. Then you get, like, a ticket. Then you go to the back of the other queue.
Wow.
And wait for 4 or 5 hours to meet her.
Did you wait that long?
No, of course I fucking didn't.
Yeah.
But I went it to the back of the other queue, thinking, oh, well, because I didn't know the queue was going to be 4 hours long. I thought, maybe she'll get through them quicker, or maybe it'll be something like that. So I went to the back of one queue, and Chloe was stood in the other queue. And then people joined the queue behind me and were chatting with a member of staff. And the staff member said that the day before, 900 of these tickets had been sold. So essentially I was stood at the back of a 900-person queue that would have taken me like 5 hours to get through, or something insane.
God. How long did, let's say you bought a ticket, how long do you get with her?
Like 2 minutes.
Right. And how much were the tickets?
I don't know exactly, probably about 20 or 30 quid per...
Yeah, go fuck yourself, okay? I'm not spending 20 or 30 quid. I don't care whether you're the Pope. I don't care whether you're the Queen.
She was a queen of sorts, I suppose.
Well, that's true. Fair enough. But, still, I'm sorry.
No, I completely
I can't. I don't have that kind of money, Lewis. Do you know what I mean?
Neither do we. That's why we got out of the queue. We went downstairs and met some other people where the queues were shorter and you had to pay less money, and then they were great. It was really good fun.
Yeah.
Like we didn't mind that. But at one point, as we were about to leave, we sort of looked up at where this queue was, and it was still just the same length as when I'd gotten out of it. And I remember looking at it and thinking, if I'd have just stayed in the queue, I would have moved up maybe 20 spots in the last 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Jesus.
Customer service. I could complain about it all day.
Wow. 900 people.
Because they sold...
Why didn't they stop?
Because it was this weird...
See, after the 8,000 limit, why didn't they stop selling tickets?
Money? I have no idea.
Yeah, I know, but surely they have to refund them? Or is that maybe there's a fine print that says, yeah, there's no refunds?
I've got absolutely no idea. To be honest, I didn't look into that too much, but I believe they are getting refunds, yeah. But what got me most about this 900-person queue was that, because it was like a Saturday and a Sunday thing, this Bianca was only there on a Sunday, but tickets were being sold on Saturday and Sunday.
Ah, right.
So tickets sold on Saturday, there were 900 tickets sold on Saturday, and then I think it was 450 sold on the Sunday. So, theoretically, in that one day, she met 1,500 people, which is insane.
Bianca must have been bored to fuck.
Oh, bored out of her tiny mind.
Yeah,
yes. Tiny or grand, I have no idea what her mind is like.
Yeah.
But yes, bored out of her mind.
2 minutes for each person. Wow, I'd bring a stopwatch, just and she's like, right, well, it was lovely meeting you. Whoa. Fucking 30 seconds left. Calm yourself down. I paid 30 quid to stand in a line for 5 hours to get 2 minutes with you. I mean, I'm sure she's lovely, but no, fuck that. I don't think.
No, it was ridiculous.
I don't think so.
We ended up accidentally running into someone on the train platform. One of the drag queens that we thought, well, we kind of want to meet her, but the queue's a bit long. And then we left the venue and stood on the train platform to get home, and turned round and she was just stood there, just taken off her wig and her dress and put some clothes on, and was then stood on the train platform to go home. And I was like, oh hi, can I have a picture? It was quite surreal that I didn't pay or queue or anything.
Yeah.
But it's on my Instagram, it's on my Facebook and stuff. Go and check it out. But
you heard it.
It was just quite weird.
You heard it here first, folks. Don't go to the convention. Wait until they're going home, and then,
yeah,
and then
stand creepily in the car park or the train platform. That's the way to do it.
Creepily wait for them.
Yeah.
As they're
Go
going
to Comic-Con
home.
and stand in the car park. You might meet Robert Downey Jr. as he's being escorted to his car.
Oh fucking hell! Yeah. Just take down their bus route and Oh,
Wait at the bus station. Note down all the different platforms that they could possibly be going to. But all right, on Drag Race, they had that little thing that said they were from Liverpool. So these are all the buses that go to Liverpool in the next 3 hours, and then you have to work your way through the platforms while you're waiting, and that's the way to do it.
That's fair. Yep. Please don't do that, because we don't want. We might get done for encouraging harassment on these people.
Yeah, don't harass people, drag queens or otherwise.
Yeah. Jesus, that was a roller coaster and a half, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. That was my first
felt
time.
Almost as long as the line. Anyway,
that was my first time taking the helm of bullshittery. How did I do?
You did well. There's plenty of
Thank you.
bullshit in there, plenty of manure, just to sieve through.
Good to know. Yeah, I can talk about cues all day, son.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to listen to two people talking about cues?
Maybe we should start a side podcast where I just tell you about cues that I've been in at certain times in my life.
Oh, I don't think so. Anyway, with that perfect ending, we neatly segue. We neatly
the neat segue to
1917.
We are, of course, talking about the film 1917, which is released in 2020. Or 2019.
Yeah.
Which makes looking at the title a bit frustrating.
Yes.
Because you're like, 1917, 2020, that's just a horrible sequence of numbers. Yeah. But yes.
It's not even about the year 1917.
No,
It's about, a couple of days, or 2 days, in 1917, in August. I mean... So, I don't know why it's called 1917.
I think it takes place in 1917.
Yeah, it does, but fucking hell, you don't. If we did that for every single film, it'd be pretty boring, wouldn't it?
But then I suppose the title 1917 is a bit more Oscarsy than I don't know, Battlefield Chase or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if they'd have called it Battlefield Rush or Messenger Battle or something. By the way, we're gonna have spoilers for the film 1917 if you haven't seen it.
Well, you can just look it up in the history books.
Probably. Is it a true story? I don't know.
I don't know.
Shameful of us. It's almost as though we're professional podcasters.
Yeah, almost. We're not quite there. But maybe we will be one day. So it's directed by Sam Mendes. It's written by Sam Mendes and Kirsty Wilson Cairns. It's starring George Mackay, Dean Charles Chapman, every British actor known to man. So yeah, there you go.
Do you have an opening statement, good sir?
I do, and I shall read it. A technical marvel that will stand the test of time, a truly emotional and ugly depiction of war, a study on the thankless nature of the Great War and the sheer waste of human life, and yet there is something to hold on to: humanity, fellowship, and decency.
Well, hey. A very poignant story, making a brilliant point about the pointlessness of war, as well as the bravery and forced bravery of men thrown into war and horrible circumstances therein against their will.
Yep. Lovely.
I think this film was dead good. I liked it a lot. It, like you say, it is a technical marvel. All this sort of one shot, or the whole film is one shot, or whatever it is. The nice thing about it is that it didn't quite feel that way in a funny sort of sense. Yeah, it felt like I was viewing it from like a one person's perspective rather than it was a one shot film. Do you know what I mean?
And it wasn't a one shot film.
No, they had a few different cuts that they'd masked with smoke or darkness or whatever.
Yeah, and there was a blackout as well.
Yeah, when
he gets shot.
Oh, I've already forgotten his name, but yeah, he gets shot in the head, but his helmet is on, so it knocks him out, and then he wakes up. And yeah, there's a blackout sequence, isn't there?
Yeah, so I mean, it's not really one shot. So, you lied to us, film. Fuck you. No,
it's a hard line to take.
Yeah, but there is no denying that this film is I mean, can you imagine the amount of work that it took to make this film? Like,
Oh, definitely, yeah.
how long would people be waiting for their scene? Because they walk through so much, like, and they are just big scenes, and it's not a one-shot film, but I think the shots are in like single digits. So, you know, there would have been a lot of waiting around, and then it's almost like a play, really.
It is a lot like a play, yeah. You could very easily adapt this to the stage.
And you make one mistake, and then you have to go all the way back to the beginning, which is just unreal.
I did quite like how like the physical journeys they went on weren't necessarily directly representative of the time it took, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like they walked from that apple tree that he was taking a nap by to Jim Moriarty's Andrew Scott's foxhole in the sort of the British Allied front line sort of thing.
Yeah.
In like less than an hour, and then he's like, "Oh, what day is it?" It's like, what? Andrew Scott? You know, you could just send a bloke 10 minutes down the trench and he'd go and it's like rural England.
Don't
do you know?
Yeah. Don't they need to know what day it is? Well, isn't he in charge?
I suppose that's kind of the point, though. In a funny way, like
well, yeah.
Everything has gone to shit so dramatically that he doesn't even know what day it is.
Well, I mean, Andrew Scott is great, but his accent is very questionable.
To be honest, I didn't notice it either way in this.
He was saying, like, I could hear hints of his Irish, and then he tried to sound a bit like a sort of aristocratic officer, and then obviously looking at him, he just doesn't look like that, and then the accent was sort of shifting in and out. I was like, I mean, you're a very good actor, but I think your accent needs a bit of...
Is there a chance that could have been sort of semi-deliberate? In that, like, he was a sort of a learned, moneyed officer, and then he was forced into this sort of hellscape, and the facade sort of shifted.
Yeah, I'd imagine they'd say that, but I think, you know, lacks consistency.
I suppose so, yeah. It's, one thing that I do, that I sort of, every time I sort of forget it, and then every time I see a World War One documentary, or film, or drama, or anything, it comes back to me, is like, trench warfare is genuinely my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
That situation in, like, with, you talk about this horrible disease like trench foot, and being forced to, like, eat rats and lice, and genuinely, that is my worst nightmare.
The rats are bigger than, like, cats, and, like...
Yeah. It's just deeply grotesque and horrible.
Oh.
I cannot imagine much anything worse, really.
And yet everyone just got on with it and just did it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you think that would work nowadays?
Trench warfare?
No, I mean, like, do you think that people would have do you think people would just do it? I don't think we would. No, I think there would be a massive sort of mutiny if that was to happen today.
I think it depends. I think there's a fine line between sort of the infantilization of the West, as some people have referred to it, of like we give our children things to sort of soothe them and calm them well into their teenage years, from chocolate buttons or whatever to a little kid, to like iPhones and social media, and we soften them from the world around them well into their teenage years. And while that is a good thing, it obviously has negative ramifications as well.
Yeah.
But there's a line between that and sort of an okay boomer type philosophy of, kids these days, they don't know what they're missing. In my day, we had to walk 20 miles uphill twice a day in the waist deep snow, and
in the good old days when everyone had polio.
Yeah, and do you see what I mean? There's a fine line between those things. I think while there is sort of a subset of people that would mutiny and would get out of trench warfare, or at least try to, I don't think that number is as big as you'd sort of think it is.
Yeah.
And I suppose you have to bear in mind as well, this is 1917, the war's been going on for a while now.
Yes.
Like, in like the first week or whatever, I imagine in real life World War One, there probably were a lot of sort of British soldiers, German soldiers going, this is fucking horrible. Can't I just go back home? Why am I here? This is... A Serbian killed an Austrian in Hungary, and now I'm here waist deep in shit.
Exactly.
Why am I doing... And I think in real life there will have been soldiers that had that thought process and then did try to leave the front lines. And I think that by this point in the war, and by this point in this fake modern-day version of World War One we're concocting, I don't think people would be trying to get out of it. I think they'd sort of have grimly accepted it to some extent.
Right.
And be thinking, yeah, everybody up above is kind of a dickhead for making me do this, but, you know, I have to try and defend my wife, my family, my kids back home, sort of thing.
Yeah, but what was it? It wasn't even about anything.
No, it was like
it wasn't some just cause. You know, we weren't fighting the Nazis. It was just circumstance, and it was just nations piling on top of each other, saying my friend's bigger than your friend type thing.
Yeah, it is absolutely ridiculous when you look into the causes and sort of the reasons that World War One was going on. It is absolutely absurd when you really start to consider it. And like the thing that really gets me about World War One is the meaninglessness of it. Both in this sort of the meaninglessness of the starting of it, but also in the start. It started entirely because of the sort of diplomacy and democracy of Europe at the time.
Yeah.
And then it ended because of the exact same thing. All of the death was completely meaningless. Nobody had a major territorial gain. Nobody had any kind of major things that way. They just sort of, everybody sat down and wrote the Treaty of Versailles.
Yeah, and one nation was blamed for it all.
Precisely. Germany was sort of scapegoated.
Yeah, and which gave rise to an even greater war that cost hundreds of millions.
Precisely. And like, that's what gets me about World War One, is how, I mean, this is what gets me about war in general. The constant, endless slaughter is so meaningless.
Yep.
And all it really is you have to sit down and talk about it. Either you have a lot of fighting and then sit down and talk about it, or you just sit down and talk about it to begin with. I don't understand.
So that quote from Doctor Who, Peter Capaldi, when he's doing when the Zygons are against the humans, and he's like, how much blood will be spilt until everybody does what they were always going to have to do from the very beginning: sit down and talk. Because it's true.
It is entirely true.
They always do it, always. And it's the people at the top that are quite happy to send thousands upon thousands of people to their deaths over ideology, or just, you know, just, I don't even know. I can't even put my finger on the biggest reason for World War One.
I think no, I can't say. There's a lot of general reasons, but it's all is politics.
Yeah.
It's genuinely all is politics.
It just seems like everyone had technology. You know, all this new technology was made, and they were dying to use it, and it was like, well, we need to have a war, don't we?
I think that the strange thing about World War One as well was it's this is a bit of a roundabout way of explaining it, but please do bear with me. But like there's this concept of population growth in sort of third world nations going into sort of first world nations. Of basically in like medieval Europe, you had 20 kids because they all died by the time they got to 5 years old, and if you were lucky, you had one kid out of that.
Yeah.
And then medicine got better, and people stopped having 20 kids because they realised, well, I don't need to have. I can just have 2, and then they'll live to adulthood. And so that's what World War One was, is sort of the military equivalent of that first stage, of where medicine was first introduced. Of now we have these tools to do mass slaughter on a scale hitherto undreamt of, and so let's just do it then. Let's just introduce these wars, and we're going to have a little war, you know, just a little sort of border skirmish, and then it resulted in millions of lives being lost in the trenches.
Yep.
Because they were like, oh god, yeah, these Gatling guns are really efficient. Yeah, and these planes are really efficient as well, and we've got these different mustard gas that's really efficient at killing loads of people very quickly.
Yeah.
It's a horrible, horrible thing.
And we like British officers would say to soldiers, "We are the British Army. We will not run. We will not scamper about like savages. We will march. We will march to victory." And of course, when you're marching in a very flat, terrain, with the enemy pointing their guns directly at you, You're just very
Yeah.
easy to be mowed down, and there are stories of German soldiers weeping because, you know, they were told to cut down these men who were just simply walking towards them. It's like, what the fuck is that?
And that disenfranchised sort of weeping, it's well summed up by a line in this film about why did you give away your medal from the Somme? Well, a Frenchman had some wine and I was thirsty.
Yeah.
You stop considering it at some point.
Yeah.
You stop considering the conflict and the slaughter, and because it's so brutal and horrific.
They had some balls killing Dean Charles Chapman. I thought
so early on. Yeah.
I didn't think that. You know, I thought it was going to be a very. I'm glad that they did that though, because I was shocked and it was like, oh my god, he's actually going to die.
I was almost expecting like a buddy cop type movie.
Yeah, so
and then
so
and then
was
we
I.
ended up with this sort of very harrowing tale of a single soldier. It was a brilliant move, killing him so brutally, so very horrifically, and very. You see him bleeding to death.
Yeah, and
it's grotesque.
And he forgets who he is for a brief moment.
Oh.
And like he denies, you know, what's going on, and then he's like, "Oh, you're right to my." It's just, you know, absolutely heart wrenching. Just watching this great performance, absolutely fantastic performance.
Oh God, yeah.
And why did the German kill him?
Exactly, because if the German soldier had considered it for a second,
it would have been.
You start to think, well, couldn't the German soldier have gotten taken to an Allied field hospital and then stabbed his way out of there and killed 30 people? Do you know? Even from the German perspective, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
The people were helping him. Why kill one of essentially the people that are treating you medically? It just doesn't.
No.
It's ludicrous.
It's really harrowing, actually, when I think back to it. Anyway, we haven't asked any questions yet.
No.
How could the film benefit from some more characterization?
I'm gonna go with no.
Okay.
Because I think the facelessness is what makes it in a funny way. Be it sort of the literal facelessness of figures of authority. Like, quite a few times we didn't see sergeants' faces.
Yeah.
Like at the start of the film when he said, "You, wake up, pick a buddy and come with me to the trench," or whatever.
Yeah.
That was quite good. We didn't see his face in that sequence. We didn't see, like at one point there was those soldiers moving a tree out of the way of the car, and the bloke that was sort of riding shotgun in the car was going, "Just move the bloody tree! Get it out of the road! What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And like you couldn't see his face, but he was shouting at these soldiers to do something they were already doing. And like you didn't, like Mark Strong was in like a position of command, and like you didn't see his face up until he started giving sort of personal advice.
Yes.
To some degree, like he was in the distance, very very small. Like, don't get me wrong, you sort of he was pointed at the camera. His face was in the frame, but you didn't really see like his eyes and his nose and you didn't see his facial features or anything until he started giving personal advice.
Yeah.
To it doesn't do to dwell on it or whatever it was. Like just get into the back of the truck. We can take you some of the way, sort of thing. As in, I liked that they dehumanized the command so aggressively, because that's what so often is spoken about. But, oh yeah, Field Marshal Haig, what a brilliant guy, what a terrible guy, he did this, he did this, he did.
Yes.
But then you start to consider, like in war, it is very dehumanizing. It goes from, oh yes, Germany did this, Britain did this,
yes.
France did this, but in reality there is still one bloke with his finger on a trigger killing somebody.
Yeah.
It is still one person against one other person. And I think this dehumanized the command chain rather than the actual foot soldiers, which I liked a lot. I was very impressed by.
They were all very. Everyone was important. Like there wasn't any person.
No extraneous characters.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. Like every single, even the essays on screen, you know, they told their own stories. You know, through the way they were sitting, what they were going through. You know, everyone was a character, which is just makes it all the more harrowing. Like, it's just such a great film, and it's because it's so because it is so easy to just say what a waste it was. I think that really went for it. If you know what I mean, like, because the war was so pointless, it's like hard not to sort of, you know, be emotional about it.
Yeah, completely. And it's sort of I liked as well that we didn't see the faces of any German soldiers, really. Like we saw a couple here and there. We sort of saw like corpses in quite sort of gruesome, very, very extreme detail, but we didn't see the actual faces of any German soldiers. Even the one that shot the sort of the main character, we didn't really see his face. His face was sort of hunched over, and his helmet was pulled down a bit.
I think he stabbed him.
No, in the sort of warehousey building after he's crossed the river. He goes up into the building and he's being shot at.
Yeah.
His helmet's sort of pulled down. You can't quite see his face, and he opens the door and gets shot, and it's like quite sudden.
Yeah. I thought you meant the one that stabbed
the plane guy.
Yeah.
Although no, you don't really see the plane guy either. You see his body and you see that he has a head, obviously, but you don't see his face, his facial features, or what he's thinking or feeling. Or
why do you like that?
I like that because it sort of matches with a line from the convoy truck that the character is being pulled along in at one point, where he says something about, "Oh, these bloody French don't know how to do this," and he's like pointing something out in the distance about a building or whatever it is. It points out again this generalization of as a British soldier, you don't ever see your chain of command, and that's why you don't see their faces, and every German soldier you see is the enemy. It's the Germans, the enemy, the Axis. They become nameless and featureless.
Yes.
You just have to mow them down. That's just the nature of it.
I would have preferred if they had maybe sort of broke down the sort of false sort of flag barrier between the two. Maybe the German didn't kill the guy and maybe was killed some other way, and it could have been a sort of yes, we're on opposite sides, but we're both, human beings.
Yeah.
But, they chose to go the route of, no, you're dead, mate,
Yeah. I think that...
I was on edge throughout the entire film.
Oh, God, yeah, definitely. I don't think I was relaxed at any point.
No, there wasn't one part of the film where I'd stop for breath. Which actually makes me think horror movies should be shot this way.
Yeah, probably.
They should, and I think that we're going to see a lot more of this. We're going to see a lot more films that sort of are influenced by 1917, and a lot of them are going to try and do one-shot things. A lot of them are going to be shit, but some of them will be good. I like the petals. The sort of
petals.
Yeah, the sort of white petals that we saw with the two of them, and then when he was going down the river, they were there.
Yes, I think I do know what you mean.
As you go further down the river, pieces on the horizon, almost, if you know what I mean.
It is certainly, it's sort of a masterpiece to some degree. Like, before I watched this film, I was thinking, right, Oscars this year, Joker's going to get Best Picture. Now I'm not sure.
No, I think...
This is incredibly good.
Yeah, I think this will definitely get it.
Although, just in case Martin Scorsese's listening, which I know he is, because he's an avid listener, but I'd like him to know that I got the optimum peak viewing experience for this film. I watched it on my phone, on a crowded train, with stock Apple earbuds.
What film?
1917.
Martin Scorsese didn't direct this.
No, I know, but he's very intense about, you have to watch films you have to watch it the correct way. You can't sit down and start The Irishman and then stop it and then start again. And
well, I agree with what he says about the Marvel films.
Yes, I agree with that, but
I mean, I think that watching a film, it's to your own taste. If you want to do that, then it's not really any of my fucking business how you watch a film. But I suppose he's coming from a director's point of view. It's their job to sort of scrutinise every detail. Most people just want to watch a film and be entertained for a couple hours. Which is essentially the whole point of films.
I think I do get annoyed by the sort of almost the bourgeois nature.
Yeah, there is a snobbery about it.
Of cinema critics and directors and stuff like that. So like Steven Spielberg, I think, said ages ago, if you don't watch a film in the cinema, you sort of haven't watched it, essentially. It has to be watched in the cinema. Films have to be watched in the cinema. So yeah, great, but You know how much that costs,
Yeah,
Steven Spielberg?
yeah, it's easy for you
I'm
to
poor.
say.
You know what I mean? It's there's this great. I mean, there is about everything. Like, I'm a nerd about coffee, and there's this great snobbery about, well, you have to use these specific beans, or you have to use this specific machine, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
There's this great snobbery in the world of cinema, which there sort of shouldn't be, I don't think. I like that cinema is more open and accessible to everybody. I think that's the reason I'm a bit more of a fan of cinema as a medium.
Yeah.
In that, like say, The Dark Knight, which was such a fantastic piece of cinema, is still being discussed today. It was a very public film. It was released in cinemas. Loads of people are going to watch it. It was a commercial success. I think that kind of commercial success invites discussion.
Yeah.
And while my joke about Martin Scorsese and me watching this film on a train might have been perhaps not hilarious, I think I just wanted to make a point about the snobbery of films and film critics, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't like the snobbery about it. It's like, it's not really my business or anyone else's business how I choose to watch a film. I mean, you can recommend, you can say, from my personal experience, watching it in a cinema means that I'm paying attention more and it's more engaging for me. That's fair enough. But, saying that you haven't watched the film or you can't appreciate the film until you've sat in a cinema is not only just a bit dickish, but it's wrong.
Yeah,
like, I prefer watching films in my room. I don't want to be sitting in a cinema with lots and lots of people fucking munching down on popcorn and snogging and people talking. If I'm in my room by myself, I find it a lot easier to watch a film. So it's an individual thing. It's not anyone's business but your own.
Indeed. Well, now that I've made my hilarious joke about Martin Scorsese, have you got any other questions, thoughts?
You better hope that you don't work with him one day, Lewis. And
if I one day get a job with Martin Scorsese and he says, "Yeah, I listened to your podcast," fuck you. Oh my god, I'll kill myself on the spot.
I didn't mean any of it. It was Danny. It was that Scottish prick. He made me say it. He made me.
It's his views, really.
How long do you think they rehearsed for?
Oh, God knows. About 1,000 million years. The fight scene in Kingsman?
Yeah.
They rehearsed for that for 2 weeks.
Oh, jeez.
So knowing that, which was I think it was a 10-minute scene, but they cut it down to, I think it was about 3 or 4 minutes in the end, the actual final scene.
Yeah.
But knowing that and watching this film and thinking this is 2 hours, almost exactly 2 hours of almost one-shot brilliance. How can they possibly have rehearsed for that?
Yeah.
It's insane to even comprehend it.
Can you imagine that it was just one shot, completely?
Yeah,
And Benedict Cumberbatch was fucking waiting for hours. Just sat there like, oh, for fuck, come on. I like the fact that the officers and the people in charge were famous actors and they weren't in it for that long. Because the advertising makes it look as if, they're going to be in it all the way through. It's like, well, if it's one shot, how's that going to be? How's that going to work? But no, it's almost as if the best of Britain's acting is sort of, the officers, and then these new actors who are fantastic are sort of the soldiers coming up, if you know what I mean. Which is good. I think that's great.
I also sort of, to some degree, I quite liked how the officers were all very clean. I liked how it sort of showed they haven't really been in the trenches to some degree.
Yeah.
Even though, Colin Firth was in a trench. He was in a foxhole or whatever it was. And so was Benedict Cumberbatch and Pete from Gavin and Stacey. They were all in trenches. They were very clean and pristine. And the soldiers all around them were filthy and sick and smoking and drinking, and they were ill. They looked ill.
Well, I mean, it's that Blackadder quote, isn't it? It's "Don't worry, soldier. If you should falter, Captain Darling and I are behind you." And Blackadder says, "About 35 miles behind you."
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's lions led by donkeys is the phrase that gets used quite a lot, which is very true.
Totally.
But talk to me about cameras, Lewis. We started this segment and then we dropped it. Give me your 10 minutes spiel about cameras.
I feel very strongly about cinematography in the world of everything. I think that it for a long time it was very underappreciated, and then Netflix made those Netflix originals like Stranger Things Series 1, I think was the big kicking off point, where cinematography became very much a mainstream concern for films, TV, things like that. And you look back and it's so gorgeous, like those bits with Millie Bobby Brown in the underground, the Upside Down, which just like stood on this perfectly black lake. And at the time, it was like this huge cultural revolution. And then you watch this, and it's almost a given that it's going to be gorgeous. But then you start to consider things that become almost more difficult to do. Like, not only is it a one-shot film, at no point in the film is the camera... Does it zoom? Does it change focus at any sort of reasonable point? Like, it's the same shot of the soldier being pinned against the wall on the outside of the bunker, and then he goes in. The camera follows him and sweeps around to view Benedict Cumberbatch sort of head-on. At no point does it shift focus, or I mean, it must do very, very subtly, but at no point do you think, I can't quite see Benedict Cumberbatch's face right. The sheer amount of work that went into this is insane. Oh, yeah. And then you start to consider, like, this is one of my sort of pet peeves in sort of horror films, is when they are in, say, a cornfield at night or something, and it's really dark, I can't see anything, but you can actually see perfectly, because you need to be able to see for like cameras and stuff to work. That's the nature of it. But then you like the bit where the bunker was collapsing and the only light they had was off their torches. Even though I could see things, it felt like I couldn't see shit. I felt hemmed in, the rubble falling down. I almost felt it on my own shoulders, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's this beautiful marriage of like the cinematography makes you feel very compressed in those scenarios, and then right at the end, when the soldier is like sat back against that tree, the world is all around him and it's these gorgeous colours and he's just dead. He's dead from this ridiculous thing that he spent the last 2 days doing.
Exactly.
It's absolutely beautiful, the film is. From all the different colour palettes, which normally are a bit more starkly obvious. When you're watching like something being cut to and from, you start to realise, okay, well then this scene, everything's quite orange. There's a red light coming through the window, like an orange street lamp coming through the window, and everybody's wearing sort of warm colours. Then in this other shot, the moon is lighting these things up, so they're a bit more blue, and it becomes quite obvious when you start looking for it. Like the one I saw it in quite recently was an old episode of Doctor Who, where Martha was inside a house and everything was quite red and warm.
Yeah.
And then out on the street was John Sims' master walking along, and everything was very blue and indigo and purple. And when you start looking for things like that, it's very easy to see. But then you watch, say, this film, and you start to become aware of sort of the very slight, sort of almost grayscale type changes.
Yeah.
Like when he's right at the start, when he's taking a nap in that field or whatever the thing is, there is colour in the world. Just like they're lying next to a field and the grass is very green, and I think there are flowers and the flowers are very colourful, and the bark on the tree is a very rich sort of colour, and the texturing of it is quite pretty and all this sort of stuff. But then like you get to the end and there are all these colours around him, but he is grey, head to toe. He's covered in blood and piss and shit and dust from that fucking bunker that exploded around him. And
exactly.
It's a beautiful film. It really is.
My favourite segment in the entire film is when he's like woken up and he goes out and like we see the sort of flares sort of washing over the sort of ruined.
Yes.
And the music for that set, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
It was superb. It really was superb.
I mean, it's just there's only so much you can say about this film because there's very few criticisms I have about it. You know, it's just one of those films that it'll be a classic.
It's immediately elevated to like one of my favourites.
Yeah, 50 years from now it'll be a classic. Sam Mendes loves his long shots, doesn't he?
I suppose he does. I don't know what else Sam Mendes has done actually. Let me Google him.
He directed Spectre, the James Bond film, and there was a very long shot in that. He did. I think he really likes his long shots.
He must do, yeah.
Yeah. He directed. I think he directed. He's done a lot. He's a very good director. I'll just check.
I think quite a lot of the things I really liked about this film were the trench scenes, both in cinematography and also in sort of the general feel of them. Because you got that hemmed-in feeling that I was talking about just now, like I was talking about in the bunker, but in the trenches it felt so much more sort of real.
Yes.
You could see all these people that have just found a hole in the wall and they're just trying to get comfortable in it. It was really... I mean, I could just go on about it all day. It's really gorgeous. It's really brilliant.
Definitely. God, I think I'm out of notes.
You know, I might be as well.
I think I'm... Yeah, I mean... We could have literally just made this 2 minutes. It's good.
Yeah, it's dead good.
It's dead good.
If you haven't watched it, go and watch it. It's dead good.
Okay. Well, have you got a closing statement?
Of course I do. A very compelling drama about the nature and brutality of war. It spoke about duty and honour without really saying either of those words, as well as showing impressive descriptions about all the soldiers are actually people. It's easy to dehumanise in a war scenario. Germany did this, England did that, but the reality is that one man still pulled the trigger. The film made a stunning visual presentation of how all the soldiers are hungry, injured, flawed people. It doesn't have a happy ending because war doesn't. It is instantly one of my favourites.
Yeah, and can I point out that it's 1917. There's a year to go.
Yeah.
So that soldier, I can't remember his name, played by George Mackay, he could die despite all the stuff that he's done. Like it's very easy for him to just sort of get shot.
And I was a big fan of... it's one of my great peeves nowadays in things about like Remembrance Day and stuff like that, like the actual event, not the film, is talking about honour and honourable people, and they did such and such a thing, and they're very brave soldiers and whatever, and troops and all this sort of stuff. I don't like that, because I think it lends to a sort of quality of hero worship of these people. And it's like, yeah, okay, great, but on the same level, these people are forced into this horrible scenario. And while we should be impressed by what they did, being impressed by their choice to do it is not what we should be impressed by. Being impressed by this one soldier who the film follows, his sort of dedication to, well, I mean, I might as well keep going. I've got to keep going. This is the nature of my life now. I have to keep going. That's the impressive thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't really see like Remembrance Day like that. I think it is just more about like, I don't think Remembrance Day like advocates war. I think it is like or romanticizes it. I think it is just about remembering those that have given their lives for whatever reason. And it means so much to like, you know, many different people. I don't. Don't
get me wrong. I'm not shitting on the idea of doing
no. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I don't think you are. But you raise a very interesting point that if you romanticize war and you make it sound heroic, I will be the first to disagree with you.
Yeah.
It's not romantic. It's not heroic. I've never been in a war, and I don't want to be in a war, because it just seems so pointless and just death for death's sake. It's like,
and that great romanticization is the great sort of thing I loathe about when people start talking about like Remembrance Day and stuff. Like, yeah, remember the sacrifice, but in my mind, Remembrance Day is about remembering the brutality of it.
Yes.
Remembering the meaninglessness of the sacrifice.
Yes.
And remembering a million people or whatever were killed in the First World War, and the same number or more were killed in the Second World War. It's about remembering the pointlessness of that sacrifice and how ridiculous it is that we had to go to war and that they had to die in these brutal, horrible circumstances. I don't enjoy this idea of a hero worship of soldiers in that way.
No,
a romanticization of war, yeah.
I agree with you on that one. I'll give my closing statement.
Hit me.
A beautiful, staggering mammoth of a film that will no doubt influence the way movies are made forever and ever and ever. So there you go. Short and sweet.
True.
Short and sweet.
I think what I sort of hope what I think we might end up with is Like when Blair Witch came out, there were suddenly lots of films made in a Blair Witch style.
Yeah.
And I hope we don't have a lot of films made in this style that just aren't very good.
Yes.
Let's make a film about war and it's just a single shot and it's first person perspective or whatever. I think that wouldn't be great.
Well, Hollywood is imitative. It always has been.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as soon as Lord of the Rings came out, there was about 1 million fucking fantasy films that were farted out like nobody's business. You know.
Yeah.
It's just it makes me feel sick, to be honest. Like, Hollywood has become so devoid of any originality that they're quite happy just to make remakes and sequels and not anything original really anymore.
Sure.
But then you get gems like this, like Joker, like 1917. You know, there are films out there made by, you know, it seems to be the same few people that actually give a fuck about originality.
Yeah.
Whereas the executives in Hollywood are just quite happy to, yes, it's a Marvel film number 57 or fucking, you know.
I know exactly what you mean. Surely, like even if you just got a directorial team or a writing team all together to work on a random film, in that you literally have a big wheel with different genres or different ideas on it, and spin the wheel. It's like, right, well, we're going to have spin the wheel, and we're going to have 3 men and 2 hamsters, and they're going to run across Turkey, and then make a film about that. Make it completely random, because that's in that creativity and that messing around and that randomness is where genius is born in a lot of situations. It's where you learn, and it's where there's a lot of learning opportunities.
That's very true. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a bit of a short one, which I wasn't expecting, but
it is. I mean, but I think it's because it's so good. It's like if something is, you know, it's hard to sort of not to sort of big up like pessimism, but there's a lot. It seems to me that there's a lot more to talk about when things go wrong.
Definitely.
But just a fantastic film, and I'll remember it forever. Really.
Yeah. It's definitely. Like, I think Joker was one of our shorter episodes as well, just because that was so good.
Definitely. So.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. What?
Where can people find you, Danny?
Yes, they can find me on Instagram at Ohiram. They can find me on Twitter at Kerzo2000. I've got a Facebook page called Daniel Kerr. Where can people find you, Lewis?
Instagram at Lewis_Brindley, Twitter at LewisBrindley4, got a Facebook page, Lewis Brindley. Go and check me out, like, subscribe, do whatever you like, send me a DM, I don't know. But the podcast it's hosted by Podomatic. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everything, we're everywhere. We're in your house, we're in your bedroom, we're in your basement. Look out for us, we might be in the corner of your eye.
Yeah, that's fucking hell, it's a bit creepy. So, the one thing that we haven't discussed that we should have done before we started the podcast, but we didn't do because we were on a roll and we wanted to get this out as soon as possible, but we didn't fucking do it. What are we doing next week, Lewis?
I have a completely off-the-wall suggestion.
All right.
John Wick, but the first one.
Okay, John Wick. Well, let's do it then.
Let's do it. Fantastic.
Let's
That is
do it.
spontaneous decision making there.
Yeah,
everybody.
did you hear that? You hear that, folks? That wasn't planned. That was
genuinely
off the cuff.
It's almost as though we're professional podcasters.
Yeah.
We're nearly there.
Maybe one day, you know, when we get to 12 listeners, then we'll be professional.
Perhaps.
So yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for listening.
Yes.
We'll see you next week for John Wick.
See you then.